going live.
And diesel is about 40. Electric is 400. How do you justify it?
Guys got changes.
Well, I'm gonna say it out there. You know what everybody thinks.
Okay, you're all set, Elias.
What's it?
Nice, if we can stand for the pledge to the flag.
United States of America. To the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
You just have a roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Christine Adamzak. Councilmember Linda Hammer.
On her iPhone.
Linda, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Councilmember Michael Jasinski. Absent. Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Noah.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Flarsky.
Present.
Supervisor Diane Benchowski is absent. We have 5 voting members in.
Thank you. Yes, first order we got here. I don't have the 5 o'clock, but
Go by Buffalo presentation.
yeah, I don't have to. I'll let you do that.
Yeah, I don't see Dan. Oh, there you go, behind the podium. Dan, the floor is yours.
All right. Good evening, council. Yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking about, I have Jim Jones and Brendan Senior of Go Bike Buffalo here to talk about the final study of the work being done under the Creating Healthy Schools and Communities Initiative. That was a program that Erie One BOCES received grant funding under from New York State Department of Health. They reached out to the town via Jill Gorman King to just talk about how the town could create a healthier environment, and that's where the connection with Go Bike Buffalo came in to look at the ways design impacts the built environment and pedestrian and cyclist movement throughout the community. So I'm going to turn the floor over to these gentlemen tonight. Jim Jones is this gentleman here, Brendan is this gentleman here, and I'll go over the PowerPoint here talking about what the report came up with, and then how that can be implemented going forward if the town wishes to do so as far as design changes.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving us some time and space here to talk about this project. Again, my name is Brendan Sini. I'm the planning director at Go Bike Buffalo, and Jim Jones is our complete streets engineer. Next slide, please. Dan gave you a little bit of the background on the project already, but just to orient you, this was primarily focused at the intersection of Straley and Alexander Avenues, one of the entrances to Cheektowaga Town Park. This was a project that is a collaboration not just with the town of Cheektowaga, but also with the Boys and Girls Club of Cheektowaga, the Youth and Recreational Services, and Redsign Memorial Library. Again, funded through New York State Department of Health, Creating Healthy Schools and Communities grant through Erie One BOCES. This is a multi-year grant. This was one project that we've worked on since 2022. We have additional funding to continue doing work in Cheektowaga in the future. And really the goal here was to enhance safety and accessibility for all road users and create better connectivity between Cheektowaga Town Park and the neighborhoods around Cheektowaga Town Park. Next slide, please. So the project process really kicked off in 2022 when my predecessor, Cindy Wood, worked on a complete streets workshop with community members where they walked around this neighborhood to identify potential locations where they could improve safety for pedestrians or bicyclists or people who are trying to get to the park from the surrounding neighborhood. And that's where, through that process, we identified a couple of locations along Straley that might be good places for interventions. We did a pre-installation survey and data collection in early 2023. That was doing a survey of community members, residents, about how they currently get around the community, what their how safe they feel accessing this area. We originally identified the intersection of Straley and Ridge Park Road as the priority location, but due to some of the constraints with a driveway that was a few feet away from the intersection, it wasn't a good fit for an implementation of a pilot project there. So we identified the other entrance to the park along Straley at Straley and Alexander. Based on the community input that we got in the data collection, which included gathering speed and volume data of vehicles and pedestrian and bicycle volumes, Jim designed some bump outs and crosswalks at the intersection that would help calm traffic there, potentially reduce speeds and reduce the distance that pedestrians would have to walk to cross the street there. We implemented the project in the spring of 2023. We also coordinated with the Boys and Girls Club to get some of the youth there to come out and help us paint the intersection and liven up some of the bump outs, get it some color and some artistry. And then we, after the implementation was done, we went out and collected post data, again, vehicle speeds and volumes, pedestrian and bicycle volumes, so that we could do a comparison to see how that implementation would have affected that behavior. Next slide, please. So here, there's just a quick overview. On the left is the pre-implementation state. On the right is the design. You can see on the north side of the intersection, there's painted bump outs where we put down the paint and also put in temporary bollards, plastic delineators to kind of create some space and compress the road a little bit, just to give the pedestrians a little bit more security when crossing there, and added some new crosswalks. Next slide, please. So through the data collection, we saw across the board a decrease in speeding. Average speeds were reduced by 36% on the approaching side and 26% on the receding side. The 85th percentile speed dropped by 14% on approach and 29% in post-implementation collection. Next slide, please. Here's just kind of an overview of all the data we collected for speeds. You can see that the percentage of speeders dropped about 6 percentage points for approach and 3.2 percentage points for receding. And some of those other numbers have been there as well for the change in speeding. Next slide, please. We did see a slight increase in pedestrian activity, but a decrease in bicycle and vehicle activity. Because it's a very low volume roadway, it's kind of difficult to do a one-to-one comparison. There may have been some of the change might be attributed to seasonal factors or the timing of the data collection. So, take that with a grain of salt for the volume amount, but the speeding definitely is a noticeable decrease. Next slide. In the in the post-implementation survey, we got some feedback from the community about how they felt about the project. There was definitely a noted increase in people feeling safer crossing the intersection. 53% of residents who responded to the survey said that additional safety facilities around the park, like bike lanes and crosswalks, would be supported. There was split opinion about some of the actual features we implemented. So there was less support for the bollards, but people said that the crosswalks were great. One of the comments we got was keep the crosswalks, remove the bump outs. They're more harmful than helpful. There was kind of a mixture of opinions on some of the actual features, but definitely across the board, the majority of residents felt like it was an improvement on safety. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have additional funding through our grant to continue doing work with the town of Cheektowaga. One of the next cycle of this grant, our budget year ends May 31st, 2024. I believe we have 1 year after that as well. So we can do more projects like this, but we could also focus on other things like doing a Safe Routes to School project. We have had some interest in discussions with the Union Free School District about potentially working with them to do bike to school days in the spring. And in order to do that, we'd probably focus on doing some kind of pilot implementation like this around schools so that if you are doing a bike to school day, they can get to the school safely. I just want to open it up to any questions about the project.
So great job. I think this is a nice holistic approach to address health and wellness and bike safety and just safety in general crossing the roads, and then you implement the arts. So it's a nice approach to it. For the surveys, the pre and post surveys and the questionnaires, were they the same residents for both, or is just whoever submitted for the pre, and then you got different answers and data from the post?
So what we did for like distributing the survey, we used physical surveys that were put out at different locations, so like the library, the Boys and Girls Club. We did social media ads, like paid ads. So it kind of got out, we could target it to people who lived within certain neighborhoods around the project. Communication through the list of people that filled out the first survey and gave us their contact information, we could send it back out to them. And through other, just like earned media kind of coverage. So it wasn't necessarily the same group of people before and after. But if we got people's information from the first survey, they were informed about the second survey.
I definitely appreciate the fact that you got the community involvement, especially the youth to help participate in this project and have the buy-in for it, at least the less destruction and graffiti on it or whatnot. So thank you for involving the community on that part. And I'm interested in the next steps in Cheektowaga to see where we go.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns, comments? All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Looking forward to continuing our work.
Thank you. I don't have the list in front of me, someone will let you,
All right.
who do we got next?
Next item is our.
It's the resolution items.
Oh, resolutions?
Yeah.
All right, Kim, I'll let you, if you could, please read those.
Resolutions. So resolution 2023-640 is the appointment of detectives, Eric Darby and Matthew Maggio. They were put on as temporary. They are now going competitive permanent. Resolution 2023-661 is the appointment of police chief. That is going to be a waiver item at the end of the meeting. Resolution 2023-641 is the transfer of funds. Resolution 2023-642 is the warrant. If anybody has questions on any of these, please stop me. Resolution 2023-643 is the change order number 1, backup generator for Town Hall Record Center. Resolution 2023-644 is a call for public hearing. There's a zoning district change and special use permit for 580 Duke Road. I have resolution 2023-645. That is a notice to bidder, rebid of interlocking rubber floor tiles for the Cheektowaga Ice Rink at the rec center. Resolution 2023-646 is a notice to bidders for asbestos survey and air monitoring services for property located at 31 Coralwood Court. 2023-647 is to approve the purchase of 4 2020 Toyota Prius LE hybrid plug-in compact sedans.
Yeah, Kim. Just so everybody knows, we got Tom from Central Garage here. It's got some issues, and I would like to go over this one too. Personally, I don't know what everybody else feels at this point in time, but I think we should get rid of all of them, not just 4. Tom?
As you can see, some of the information I gave you there, the utilization of these vehicles is like non-existent. I mean, some of these cars get driven anywhere from 300 to 3,000 miles a year at the most. So I don't really see the need for them. Plus the added workload on me and the fact that these cars are going to be coming out of warranty, so any work that is going to need to be done, I have to go back to the dealer because my guys are not qualified to work on these types of vehicles.
I think you haven't got any test equipment, any scanners,
No.
anything for them, Tom.
No,
So my assumption would be everything, no matter what it is,
Have
is
to
going to go back to the dealer.
Yep.
So in the long run, it'll probably wind up costing us
more money. Yep.
You know, and it's not that I'm arguing about the electric vehicles. I just don't think we're prepared for them at this time, at least not to take care of it.
Yeah, none of my guys are certified in them.
No. A lot of dealers are having the same issue too.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest thing is in a lot of cases, these things, some of them average out to a mile a day. We
If
could
that.
Uber them cheaper.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the part I don't understand. I understand the whole situation where we got them under a grant, you know. Okay, so it was a state grant, supposedly it didn't cost us money, but it did anyway. But I'm looking at the cost down the road. If we buy these vehicles, a year after we get them, or even 6 months after we get them, a battery goes bad, you're talking $15,000 to $20,000 on top of what we paid for the lease, which was over $9,000, plus the 18 that we're gonna buy these out at. Economically, it just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, like I always said, it's my money too. It belongs to the taxpayers. Plus, if you go through the list that we've got here, some of these vehicles, you know, when you look at the mileage that's on them, try to figure out why we even got them. It just doesn't make any sense where, you know, you put 1,000 miles or 2,000 miles a year on any vehicle. To me, cost per mile, you can't justify it. We'd be cheaper paying the employees to use their own vehicles. Pretty much that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's one of those, you know, I don't know what anybody thinks or what they've got to say, but I think number one, it's a bad investment. Right now, it's gonna cost us, just for 4 of them, $73,600. We paid roughly, well, $9,300 per vehicle for the lease of 3 years. So we got a lot of money invested in these already, and I don't see recouping any of it. And a lot of it is because it's just not being used. I think there's maybe only one out of the engineering department that's got some miles on it.
yeah,
I think that's the one Mark Bielefeld uses.
yeah. I don't know who drives what vehicles.
Now, that's the only one I'm familiar with, Tom. That's why I just wondered what everybody thinks, you know, 4 of them is gonna be just as big a headache as anything else.
But I definitely agree with you mathematically and that, but my question would be the one, you know, one is used a lot, you know, like we said, out of the engineering's office. What is the plan if we do get rid of all of them? The one that is getting used the most, or the ones that are even getting, the top 4 that are getting used? What is our plan for that and our course of action once these are gone in 2 weeks? I mean, what do we do? I mean, you're the one that uses it, right, Mark? I'm assuming that one, or am I wrong? You, Paul?
Yeah, Paul uses it.
So, I mean, do we have a plan for Paul, you know, on what to use? I don't know, you know,
Well, I
instead
think,
of just pulling the rug out from.
not to interrupt you, Brian, I think we still got 5 Focuses on these, don't we?
We do.
5 Fusions.
Or Fusions.
Fusions, yeah.
2019, that's a 5-year lease on them.
Yeah, and it's kind of an option, especially for engineering, because the one position in highway is gonna be gone, and I think that pickup truck is only a year old. Might not be a bad idea. I think engineering could use that pickup truck more than anybody else could at this point.
Can we transfer from highway equipment over to
Yeah.
engineering? Okay.
Yeah, highway maintains all engineers' vehicles.
And this is where it's really been a tough part. I don't know how many years I've been trying to do this, and I've heard all the stories. When you get the vehicles, and I defy anybody to go over to Alexander Street any day of the week. Go back 4 days later and see how many vehicles did move. Go over there in the wintertime. Snow's not even plowed around. How many vehicles you chase all winter, dead batteries down?
I've already replaced 2 start batteries in 2 of the Toyota Priuses that we currently have because of lack of use.
Right.
Even though it's a hybrid vehicle, it still has a 12-volt electric start battery. And just like your personal vehicle, if you let your personal vehicle sit, so much electronics in these cars nowadays. If you let your personal vehicle sit for 2 months, month and a half, and don't use it, the 12-volt start battery is going to be dead. If you look at the information I gave you, there's multiple times, month after month, where I've started, charged batteries and took them back and then did the same thing a month later. And then at some point in time, because the battery's been decharged and recharged so many times, I had to replace the batteries. So there already is cost incurred in these vehicles for replacing batteries.
Well, I think what nobody understands either is when these are plugged in and charging the main vehicle battery,
It
it
doesn't
doesn't
charge
charge
the start
the
battery.
gasoline engine battery.
Nope.
So even it sits there, the computer is, still powered up. About lot of the other stuff. So sooner or later, if they're not driven, they're gonna go dead.
So we got a list here of 27 pool cars, and I'm looking through them. 4 of these are right at the bottom in terms of mileage. We're talking 300 miles a year, 500, 312 for one of them. One of them has 299 miles. It's dead last out of the 27 in terms of usage. But you look at the ones with the highest mileage out of the 27 pool cars. One of these electric cars is number 2 on the list. Another one's number 6, and then you got a 10 and 11. So there's a handful of them that have been getting a lot of use, and some of them that haven't. Whether we keep the EVs or the 5 Fusions, we've got 27 pool cars in this fleet, and some of them are getting very low mileage. Others are getting between 3,000 to 7,000 miles a year on this list. Obviously, a car that's assigned to the assessor's office is going to be different than code enforcement. The code enforcement vehicle is going to get, a lot more mileage on the road. If we get rid of 8 cars, we're going from 27 to 19 on the pool car list. Can we afford to get rid of that many that fast? To my mind, and maybe there's not broad agreement here, I think we should move away from leasing towards direct purchases. There's some advantages to leasing, but you look at some of these vehicles, we dump so much money in monthly, and then at the end, we have to make a decision. Are we going to buy it or not? When you look at all the monthly costs and you add them up, you could have just bought this thing outright for less. We did an experiment with leasing, and in my opinion, I think we should do less of it, not more. So can we afford to get rid of 8 cars when we've already have people that are using them? We've already got the infrastructure to do that, or should we keep some of them for now and sell some of them off later? I'm in agreement that we should get rid of some of these for sure. One of the other things that came up, maybe you can speak to it, is like the undercoating. Vehicles that we own outright, year one, you're doing that undercoating to prevent the rust starting to get to the frame and all that. We haven't done it with these EVs, right?
No,
And we've had them, what, 3 winters now or 4?
3 winners.
3 winters, so.
There's an issue with that, not to interrupt you, Brian. Probably the biggest problem, and this is what I've gotten from some of the dealers, because there's actually not a frame per se like there is in other vehicles. It's the whole canister that the battery is actually.
Which gets.
And the biggest thing that they claim, if you rust proof these or undercoat them, nobody seems to have a rock solid answer about them overheating, which might start a battery fire. So it's kind of up in the air. I don't have an answer for that one either. But I think what we've seen over the years, even some of the mileages on the other vehicles, and there's so many of them, I think, how long has that one been sitting by town hall? The pool car.
There's been a car since October 14th that's been sitting on the ready line that was done and never got picked up, and it was dead again today.
Right. So I don't think it's a matter that we're short vehicles. I think that's part of it, why some of these mileages are ridiculously low on those. And it's like I said, anybody can go over to Alexander Street on any given day. There's at least 5, 6, sometimes 7 sitting that just don't move. So even if we get rid of these electrics, I think we've got more than enough vehicles.
Right, that's where the department heads come into play, whether or not they can, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, employee number 1 takes it, Tuesday and Thursday this week, employee number 2 takes it. Can they split a car? Can they split 3 people to 1 car? Brian, I agree with you. If we had a plan in place, instead of spending the money on leasing, if you bought 1 or 2 cars every year and then eliminated the oldest one and sold that outright and recouped your money from that and just kept updating your fleet constantly instead of leasing and then being at this point where you got 8 cars and now you have to make a decision. So it's kind of what happened when we took these 8 cars on. We sold 8 vehicles off and we outright owned that were undercoated from day one.
Well, and I think it really doesn't cover you, Tom, but for the years I've been around trying to go through this and trying to make any sense of it, I can't anymore. Last year, sewer department needed a new dump truck, right? Got them a new dump truck. Where's the old one? Highway took it, they're running it every day. So what was so bad about it that they couldn't run it anymore?
I ask the same question every day.
I'm not picking on the department heads or anybody in the town, but I think sometimes the want overrides the need.
Sure. I just received another email today that another EV or another hybrid vehicle is dead again at Alexander.
Yeah.
We had issues with the batteries for the Fusions or any of the other vehicles?
Not as much. They don't have as much electronics in them, you know what I mean? They're, like a Focus is more of a basic, simple car, you know what I mean? So they're not, you'd be surprised. I don't know if you guys realize at home sometimes. Sometimes you walk by your car and you just hear clicking and relays activating. They just periodically do that.
It's draining constantly, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Constantly, there's constantly computers in the car running, turning on and turning off.
Yeah, so the batteries in these Toyota Priuses are draining much faster than.
It's a very small battery. It has a very limited capability as far as go crank amps and stuff like that. I don't want to get all technical on it, but they're not as big as a Fusion battery or a Focus battery, so they will not last as long. So
No, and the biggest thing we had talked about it, Brian, and, you know, from an engineering standpoint, it's confusing to me that they didn't have some kind of a trickle charger built into those when they're plugged in to keep the vehicle battery charged. It makes no sense to me.
So with these leases, whether we return 8 of them or 4 of them, how much work has to be put into them to make them returnable? Because with leases, you can't return a car with bald tires and
Well, that's
dead battery
I
and tow it up and say, thank you, and walk away.
I just had a couple in that were due for inspection, and when we're doing inspections, there's some bumper covers that are damaged. There's some wheel wells that are, I don't know what's gonna happen on that end. I was never part of that.
Probably gonna be built back to us.
I wouldn't doubt that.
Well, we were lucky on, what did you say, Tom? We don't have to de-identify.
That I don't know neither. They're all stickered.
And, you know, in terms of the central garages budget, I've looked back at budgets going back to 2012, and it's probably around 25% lower than it was years ago.
Yes, we cut every
And-
year.
The auto prices have inflated faster than general inflation, so you got the perfect storm happening over
Yep.
there. I mentioned that as a precursor to, if you need equipment, I mean, do you have either a ballpark estimate of what it would cost to get it? Or can you describe a couple of the things you would need and how much those specific things would cost, just to kind of give us some idea?
I never even looked into it because of the fact that I don't have, my guys aren't trained to work.
Hmm.
So I can't put the cart before the horse and get the equipment and have the guy go, I'm not touching that car.
Because you're not even at step one yet, right?
Yeah, the safety factor of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the only thing I could relate to you, Brian, and this is a couple of months ago because of all the changes on all these new vehicles, I just bought a new scanner for our shop. It was $7,200. And then it costs us for the maintenance and the computer programs to go along with it, $1,800 a year.
Yeah, just on your normal aspirated engines. My Snap-on scanner every 2, 3, 4 years, we update it.
Yeah.
$3,000, $4,000, $5,000 trading in your old one, and then you still have a yearly occurrence of anywhere from $1,200 to $1,800 just to get it updated to the current model years.
Everyone's got a software license. Yeah.
Donna, what's everybody think?
So
Jerry, can I quickly address it? The 3 cars that Brian mentioned that had the highest use, they are housing guys, and they use them every day. So if we don't have those cars next week, we need 3 cars added to the department, minimally for those 3. We've got 12 guys, I think we have 12 cars that go out every day. Some are varied to some frequency, but typically they're between 3,000 to 7,000 miles, which we described when we went for the vehicles beginning. They were originally supposed to be assigned all to housing for the benefit of the maximum savings of gas, not just to strictly to the miles they use, but they use the most miles of all typically departments on a daily basis. So the intent, we actually have some pilot program that we have 5 part-timers that are supposed to be hired this year that will be hired in the beginning of the year, that we're gonna need cars to pool for them going into that pilot program. So I just want to say, if we decide to turn them in or we decide not to turn them all in, we use 3 every day. So we've had 3 assigned to the department since. So either way, they can make that decision, but I just know we'll have to have 3 cars immediately ready to be replaced. Or we'll have to figure them out sooner because they go out at different times all day, they get called out, and that's how they kind of work. They schedule their own their inspections. So I just want to be clear that they're the 3 greatest on there. The lowest ones are been assigned to different departments that are outside our scope.
that's 100% why I have some reservation on getting rid of all without a plan of knowing how it's gonna affect those that do use it. I mean, right there, we heard there's 3 there, Paul uses his, there's 4 right there. What is our plan for those 4 vehicles to be replaced, you know, with the cars that are currently in the pool? Or do we need to come up with another plan? So our next board meeting is December 12th. Is that too late to give that decision, being the 18th? I know you've been working, you're beating your head against the wall on it, asking, and this is what also is, I mean, Paul sent numerous emails to all of us and department heads
Yes.
saying, hey, who needs what? Is it an option, all that? No answers, crickets, crickets. It comes down, hey, we've got a month left, crickets, crickets. Then there's like, oh yeah, I could use one in, in building and plumbing. I could use one over in assessments and that. And then all of a sudden there's like, wait a minute, I could use all 8 now. And that came out today and yesterday. I go, oh my goodness. So we keep circling this and I apologize, Paul. You've been working hard on this. And now here we are. We got to make a damn decision and is the 12th too late? Because I want to see how it's going to affect you guys that do use it.
Sure, not to interrupt you, I don't want to pin Paul down either, because how long have you and I been talking about this? Is it March,
Yeah,
somewhere there?
yeah, but that was the first email that was sent out in March with the intent that,
All
I knew it was gonna take a while to make a decision.
Notice on this, and now it's 5 minutes to 12 and everybody's getting panic stricken. And I want to ask anybody, including you, Paul, because you're at Alexander Street, how many of those cars never move from day to day or week to week? 5, 6?
Well, I mean, we had circumstances even in our office, one of our employees had a very bad injury. So that car, we have 2 of them in our department.
Right.
One's not being as utilized. That's probably one of the bad ones on the list. Because the gentleman hasn't been in for the longest time for an injury. But again, hearing what Rick's saying, I don't know what every other department does. I think the initial plan was to get the department head response, and there was some banter back and forth. I threw it out again 3 months later. It's the banter back and forth, and here we are. Just so you know, that's why I stood up is Hoselton is a leasing company out of Rochester. December 18th is the date. We don't have to take the decals off. That bought us a few minutes. They'll come pick them up. I don't know if it's with the intent they had buyers for them or that's their deal. Needless to say, I don't really want to wait till the 12th to do this, because what's going to happen then too, right? I would really like a decision made on this thing today, so we know what direction to move forward. I threw the resolution out from a request to purchase 4 of the 8. Apparently there's money in the budget. I don't know what that number is, not my business, but apparently there's money to purchase at least 4 of them. That said, again, we don't know, again, in the past, 25% of a reduction in budget, when we drop off cars for service, these guys had a car for us to use for the day. Those days are done. We don't have that luxury anymore. That said, I prefer not to wait, if that's possible.
No, absolutely, I get it. Like I said, my reservation is concern is that we don't have a plan for the 4 vehicles that that are getting to use right now.
Well, I mean, there's some thought to it too, right? There's 2 sides of the coin. We got a $250,000 grant. The intent originally was to purchase. We didn't have enough money to do that. The intent then was to lease electric vehicles, not hybrids. Didn't have money to do that. It was 10 instead of 8. This is what we ended up with. Now, more so, we have 4 dual charging stations, 2 at Town Hall, 2 at Alexander. We have a mini solar array. That's just going to be a dust bowl. Or the ones we keep, no one's going to use them in Alexander because it's at the back of the facility. The Town Hall one might be utilized, but we need to probably put some kind of a charge on that for people that would charge it, get some kind of money back for those peanuts, right? But what do we do with all the stuff that we got courtesy of a grant, right? It was good intention, but again, unless we continue the plan, then it's mothballed, Again, I have no opinion either way. But we need to make a decision, right?
We have a resolution to sell 4 now. That gets us halfway out of this. We have the equipment to keep these other 4 running for a bit. And we have an opportunity to sell the other 4 later. We can sell vehicles at any time. We buy these outright, suppose we use them for another year and put them up on the auction. That gives us a little bit more time to figure out exactly who's using what, because I think we can do both, downsize our little fleet a little bit and meet Coburn's needs and these other inspectors with this existing fleet. We're just going to have to get creative with how people are sharing cars.
But the thing, I don't want to step on Tom's toes, but there's, do we look into an extended warranty? We don't have the personnel to fix these vehicles. I don't know if you had any major problems with them, Tom.
No, it's all been self-inflicted, lack of use,
Gotcha.
batteries.
There's not enough miles on them to consider that.
True.
That's the fear of the unknown too, though. What's next?
Well, Paul, do you or anybody know, okay, so say if we take 4 of these things.
Yep.
What's the lease cost going to be on the other 4? Is it gonna be the same as it originally was
I-
or not?
I know that we can lease it further. We can extend it. Brian, and I had a conversation that whatever monies are available wouldn't be available to the next calendar year.
Right.
So I do believe that we can continue to lease them. I don't know at what rate. I'd have to find that out. But there's, again, we're just delaying the inevitable again, right?
All right,
And again, you look at the list, we've got, if there's 27 cars here, number 23 on the list has 500 miles, number 25 has 331. Maybe the 4 cars we buy have less than 500 miles on them.
Okay, that's why I was asking, were there any other mechanical issues? Just because the car has 500 miles doesn't make it to pick up the litter, right? I mean, the one I'm driving, I
Absolutely true.
fortunately have had no issues.
Has had 3 winters go underneath it, you
Correct.
know?
Correct, yeah, yeah. So I have, it's like 6,500 miles on mine, but listen, I don't care what I drive, I don't, but, you know, we prefer to have SUVs and or pickup trucks. We're able to share that with our own personnel when we need it. Again, if you're giving away one from highway, we have a highway transplant vehicle already that's got some miles on it, still running. I'll take it.
I mean, if this is an issue where we have, you know, where we don't have the money till the next calendar year, maybe it's a situation where we could table the resolution tonight, but we really got to make sure we understand exactly what these pool cars are used for by the next meeting. We have to make a decision at the next meeting if we don't act on this right now. So that way we have all of our ducks in a row and everything lined up, you know? But again, you know, we have the resolution in front of us and it would allow us to get rid of half of these. And then while we're figuring out what to do with the remaining 23 cars, we may well be able to sell off the other 4 not too long after.
There are employees in the town that flat out refuse to drive them. Just so
Right.
that we're on the same page.
Understood? That's absolutely true.
And Jerry's points are spot on. I get it. I mean, we've got these, why even lease them further if we're not using them in the first place? And then the cost to replace batteries just to get them going, only to not use them again. Totally get that. I just don't want to put our employees like Paul or the 3 out of, you know, Coburn's office in a tough spot to where there is no vehicle then for a certain day or a certain time. How do they get to do their job? You know, if we don't have a plan for that, for the other 4.
Yeah.
If you're able to say, hey, there's 4 within this pool car that we could pick out and, you know, give them the keys for the day or whatever, great. You know, let's move forward. Let's dump all 8, is my opinion. But without a plan on the 4 that are getting heavy use right now, I don't know. I'm just uncomfortable with that.
And that's why Paul put the email out so long ago.
Absolutely, 100%.
We were looking, and I mean, I was involved in email as well, and at one point in time, somebody suggested that I determine who gets what car. How can I determine what department needs what, how many employees they have? I was looking for more of a feedback, like, I have 5 employees, and on such day, he uses it for 3 hours or 4, I mean, obviously with the mileage in these vehicles, they're not using it 8 hours a day.
No.
Can we split one car between 3 people? I don't know, I'm not the department head.
Right.
Can you put 6, 8, 10, 12,000 miles in a car in a year instead of putting 300 and 3,000 and 4,000? I don't see why that can't be done. That's just me on the outside. I'm not in the department. I'm not running it. I'm not telling these people to go out.
Can we keep 2 of them? You know, I don't know, but then what goes back to what if something goes wrong on them? We're not equipped for it. So we're sending it out to the dealership anyways. So.
well, it's like I said, even if we needed, say 2 more cars, even 3 more cars, we're gonna be spending $73,000, almost $74,000.
Can that
Then
money
go
be
away
used to
for-
buy another car, 2 cars?
Exactly.
I don't know. That's,
You know, and something at least we can maintain, because the whole problem, believe me, I deal with all the dealers. Actually got a brand new pickup truck. Got to take it back to the dealer today, one of our own, right? Probably won't see it till Thursday or Friday at best. Now, and it's like I said, when you start taking things to the dealer, you never know when you're gonna get them back. You know, and that's the biggest issue. And it's like I said, even relative to what Tom had said too, over the years, just trying to find out who's got what. Very difficult, and that's why I said this goes all the way back to March. Like I said, we're at 5 minutes to 12, and now all of a sudden everybody's panic stricken. I need 3 more vehicles. I need 5 more. It doesn't work that way. We got to plan ahead, and everybody knows how bad the budget is this year money-wise. And it's like I said, I just my feeling for what I've seen since these electric vehicles can come out, they can turn out to be a real albatross around your neck. And it's like I said, do we need that at this point in time? It's like I said, and I'm assuming just central garage, highway, anybody. When do we ever do any training in town? Who's gonna send them to be trained on these vehicles? And it's an issue, if we pass this by and keep even four of them, eight of them, we're still gonna have the same issues. No doubt in my mind. It's like I said, I just think, number one, it's a bad investment. And I think everybody was enthralled because it was a grant, not costing us any money. I think that's what had driven a lot of it. And it's like I said, sure, we're gonna, be stuck with the solar array and all that stuff. But I think there's, you got electric cars, don't you?
I do.
You got plug-ins, right?
Yeah.
Kind of hard at night. No, but it's like I said, it's just a whole bunch of issues. I'll give an example of how bad it's getting. I think I was telling Brian's about it. 26,000 GVW truck. Battery, all electric. It's got a range of about 100 miles. The chassis alone is $400,000. A standard diesel chassis is about $140,000, $150,000. They're unaffordable. $15,000 to $20,000 to replace a battery. Insane in my book. Insane in my book. And that's why I said it's just, personally, economically, and I think for the taxpayers, I think it's a bad investment to keep.
Decision has to be made today, or I support getting rid of all 8 then.
Well, I think going back to what Paul said, look what happened with the weather in the southern tier last night. We got a bad storm. We can't have the meeting in time for this. What do?
Yeah.
I think we're putting off the inevitable.
Okay.
We have to figure out the remaining 19 cars, who's using them, how often they use them, and then figure out, do we need to purchase any more cars? Because if it's getting used, let's figure out how we can share them. If we can work that out with the remaining 19, that's great, but we have new needs that are gonna be coming out, like Rick Colbert mentioned. And maybe we can meet those needs and share through the pool cars, but we just have to have answers on where these other vehicles are, what they're used for, who depends on them.
Councilmember Hammer, you had something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we were gonna spend 73,000 to buy out these leases. Why don't we turn all of them in and take that money and buy a few cars new, a few cars that we can use as pool cars and start, rebuilding our fleet with some new vehicles.
Fusion worth. New.
What's a new Fusion word? You probably can't afford to even make a sedan anymore.
Well, something of that size.
Probably talking 30 grand.
Yeah.
What's the availability?
There's more vehicles on a lot than a lot of people believe. Take a look at the transfer section by the big bridge on Harlem Road, vans, everything. Dealers' lots are loaded.
Like Keller Chevrolet's advertising, they got hundreds of cars in their lot. I don't know. That's really not my department. You know what I mean?
I was curious.
My thing is going by the mileage. I can't see how even 3,000 miles. I mean, we all drive our cars every day, go back and forth to work. Probably on average, every one of us put more than 3,000 miles in our car a year. Now, if you're using that for work, and you're only putting 3,000 miles on one person, why can't 2 or 3 people use it and put 6, 9, 12,000 miles?
It's just a matter of making up a schedule.
There's gotta be there should be a way that in today's day and age, we can work out a schedule where Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I don't know how it's done. I don't run the departments, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then if you, like I said, purchase a vehicle once a year, 1 vehicle per year, or 2 vehicles every other year or every year, and you update your fleet and you constantly keep it moving, then it throws less on my load. Everybody else is happy because they got a newer car, not, you still get good value in return because it's got a 50,000 miles on it or so. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but
Yeah. There's
300.
something else to look at here is we've got 551 and 552. I don't know if they're sedans or SUVs or pickup trucks, but one's got 144,000, the other one's got 124. It's not terrible mileage, and those are the two highest out of the whole list. Number three is got a car with 25,000 miles, and I know it was brought up before, hey, the mileage might be low, but if it's seen a lot of winters, that doesn't really matter. But I mean, that's something to keep in mind too, is that the miles on all these other ones are so low that even though if they've got the undercoating and all of that, we could probably get a lot more life out of the rest of these, The priority should be if we sell off 8 cars, making the remaining do everything we need before we even try to buy them. We should keep the money set aside if we have to buy 1 or 2, we'll try to make it.
551 and 552 were both vehicles that were used by the police department and were handed down to
Us.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's why
That makes sense.
majority of that mileage.
So those are
came as-
pre-miles, and that's how I'm looking
Yes.
at it, is because it says
Yes.
2,000 miles for the year, I go, wow, why such a
That's-
dip,
that's
but
why-
that makes
That's why it
sense.
is what it is.
Need some
Trust
electric
me,
ones?
they use them. They use them.
now.
But the problem is nowadays, I mean, that's even going by the wayside because the cars that are getting taken out of service, we're using for parts for years. You know what I mean? Whether they're wrecked or to the point where they're no longer serviceable for the police department, we're using the parts for other cars to keep the fleet alive. Saving us money on buying new parts over and over and over again.
Well, that's another thought too, because, I even hate to bring this one up. Say we keep these electrics, if they make it 7 or 8 years, what do we do with them when they're done?
Scrap metal.
I mean,
A lot of places won't take them because the battery's
Yeah.
bright.
And then we gotta properly dispose of these batteries, and what does that look like, the cost to that?
Now, like I said, because I think, I told Tom today, I believe it's gonna come someday, but I don't think the technology is here. I think it's quite a ways away. It's crazy that there's some company talking about making battery powered airliners. Upward flying.
I know I talked to one of the Packer suppliers in Albany or Schenectady, one of the two, $1 million for a garbage truck, electric garbage truck. Yeah.
Wow.
$1 million.
Yeah, prices on this stuff are getting outrageous, was they haven't got the range, but, the only thing I'm concerned about right now with getting sidelined. Like I said, that's why I brought it up when this showed up out of the blue. It's like I said, it's been going on, at least since March. I don't know how many conversations Paul and I have had about it, trying to get the information. Nobody was forthcoming with any of it. And now, we've got to kind of shoot from the hip.
So also thinking big picture here, let's say for sake of argument, we agree to return all 8 cars, and we're left with these charging stations, like Paul said. Are those something we could either A, auction off and recoup some funding, or B, move somewhere else in the city or in the town? Because nobody's coming to the town hall here to park their car and plug it in for 5 hours because it's not a tourist destination. It's not like, hey, I can go walk the park or whatever. What do we do with this big old charging station here? You could charge it up because you got court all the time. I get it.
There are a lot of people that come and sit there and they park it and they go walk somewhere.
I do
I've seen
see
them.
that.
I've seen them just like,
Yes.
For here, this location?
Yes.
Yeah, they
Yes.
actually do.
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't quite get it as a destination.
There's a good amount of people that, I don't know what they're doing, or maybe they're hopping on a bus and leaving it, but I've seen them,
Well, that's good to hear. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that,
and the Alexander Street ones.
Yep.
But that's a whole nother point too, is they're getting free charges off the electric of the town,
You have to address
Lower
that.
chargers, it doesn't cost
Right.
much. It's usually like 10 cents a kilowatt. So those are pretty cheap. The fast chargers cost more. And they changed them here in Cheektowaga, so they go based on the time now. So if you're charging peak time, middle of the day, it's more
Oh, okay.
expensive because National Grid's been changing where they do this off-peak. So you can
Right.
charge very cheap at night. I mean, you can charge super cheap at night, but then during the day it's more expensive. But I have seen a lot of people, I mean, using, now you got the ones, the Tesla ones, you got the ones at Walmart that are superchargers. You got the ones here at the town.
Right.
So there are a lot now. It's, certain companies are better than others at maintaining an electric fleet.
Yeah,
Well-
if we use these charging stations on town hall campus as marketed as open to the general public, we gotta run it at least at cost. We can't run it at a loss to taxpayers. So we gotta do something about that. very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, yours is run by ChargePoint. Some of the towns just charge like $1, they charge per kilowatt. Usually average price is like between 10 cents and 20 cents. And people will pay it because they want their car charged.
But with that said, it's, you know, we need 4 votes to pass this thing tonight. What I'm hearing, it doesn't seem like there's sufficient support to get this done. So at that point, should we table or should we pull it?
I said, what if we just pull it from the consent and then just vote on it? And it sounds like it's gonna be voted down, so that's what we do then, rather than tabling it and delaying it or pulling it and then it's gotta be, a decision's gotta be made today or the 12th, the very, very latest, so let's make that decision today.
Right,
Or we could still amend it to go to 8 instead of 4.
it's another idea.
What do you mean, go to 8? So,
Get rid of,
give back all 8.
Yeah.
Correct, that's what I would recommend then, is to give back all 8.
that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, it's a big reduction in this fleet. I'm not prepared tonight to go that far. I'm not saying I would. It's just, I want to know a little bit more about these remaining cars, exactly who's using them and exactly where they are.
It sounds like the 4 that are being used right now they're both in this room right here, you know, Paul and, Rick
You
there.
show for 4 next week, I'm fine.
But we just need a plan for them on what vehicle are they gonna have, or are they in the pool and accessible right now? And
But that's the thing, none of these have 0 miles used this year, so if we pull it away from the department, we'll see who notices and who doesn't, for one. For two, I'm sure that they're gonna say, I need this for, whether it's for conferences, for this purpose, or, but I think moving on all 8 tonight, without investigating this a little bit more would be too much too soon. You know, in 2 weeks, we might have information that confirms that is the right move. We just gotta ask around.
so for this, can we vote on the way the resolution is right now? Keep 4, get rid of 4, and then introduce another resolution next meeting if need be. At least we get some ball going a little bit, but it's still gonna be same answer at the end of the day on the 12th,
It's up to you guys.
you
I
know?
wouldn't oppose that. I don't know if that's gonna double the administrative work.
It's just a matter of, let's say the ball's dropped and a decision's not made, or, you know, blizzard and we don't have the meeting and whatnot, you know, the what ifs are, you know, instead of just getting rid of all 4, I guess. I don't know. I just,
Yeah, I could check into what it would cost to extend the lease. I mean, if there's a blizzard or what have you. I mean,
correct, you know, extending
I
another
can
2
check
weeks
into
or
that to
so.
see what that's worth.
Yeah.
Brian Kraus? Hello back there. Foolish question. We budgeted, what, $73,000 to buy the 4 bag, right?
Right, I mean, we're
Is
talking
there
pool
any-
cars now, right, yeah.
Right, but is there any additional funds that we could use if, say, we had to buy another 3 cars?
Well, I mean, there, as Tom alluded to, there are other pool cars that are being leased currently.
Right, the
And,
Fusions.
yeah, the Fusions, and they're ending in 2024 as well, so, you know, that, the jury's out on that. My personal expectation is that we have equity in those cars. So
Right.
there's different, those are different leases. So they have equity leases, and my expectation is, you know, that, you know, we would be able to lease more cars. The money's in the budget basically to kind of continue leases right now, not to purchase. I mean, really, so that's, you know, this was the first group of cars we leased, and they were 5-year leases. So they're expiring in 2024. You know, pool cars as well as other trucks as well. So, but so, and actually Enterprise, who we do the leasing program through, has sent me a meeting request for December 12th or something, somewhere in the December timeframe to kind of go over what they think would be a plan of attack going forward. Now, that's going to include leasing vehicles through them, you know, so, but they basically have looked at, you know, we sent them our whole fleet, and they were trying to, you know, come up with a plan to go forward into the future with the town, you know, as partners. And that was the original plan. Even that we would continue leasing through these 5 years, but, you know, COVID happened and kind of upset the apple cart.
Right.
Brian, do you know what the lease cost is on the Fusions?
Not off the top of my head, no.
I think we paid $9,000 per vehicle to lease for 3 years, right?
Right.
Times 8 is 72,000, right?
Yeah, we're,
Yeah, for these
$9
three,
bucks.
74,592.
Right, so do you lease 8 new vehicles for that money you're looking to spend on 4 to keep? I don't know.
I believe the 5 Fusions are $399 a month that we were leasing.
And we've also got some pickups for leasing.
And those are I think they're $599 a month. for the
None of those vehicles were under code from day one, just so we're all aware.
All the lease vehicles.
So here's another financial question though is, so the grant initially was for 10 cars. It wasn't the amount we wanted, or the cost of the cars were higher, so we had to settle for 8. We were budgeted for $73,600 for 4 vehicles to keep. But what if we go to return the 4 and they say, hey, it needs $20,000 worth of work for us to accept it? Are we gonna cut now another vehicle out of that equation, or is there money there for that? I don't know what kind of damage has been done to those. I think this, like I said, bumper scrapes. I'm not.
There's a couple bumpers that are cracked. There's a bumper that's melted. There might be dents and things in quarter panels and doors. I mean, I don't go over with a fine tooth comb every time.
Correct, you know, they start,
I don't know.
they're gonna go through with a fine tooth comb and say, hey, a rat ate this wire, now we gotta rewire the harness
That
or
happened
whatever.
too.
Exactly, yeah, that's, I'm going based off this, I go, so what if we end up having to spend $10, $15, $20,000 to put, just to give the cars back? Are we budgeted to do that, you know, if we were to decide to keep 4, now do we keep 3? Just to, I don't know, this is all new to me.
I think we're, you know, in that case, if we're talking about having to train people and to buy equipment to work on these hybrids, if you're gonna pay for that, or you're gonna pay for this, I don't think we're gonna be able to run exact numbers, so we're gonna have to work on incomplete information, and say it took $10,000 between training and equipment purchases, probably low end, I don't wanna, you know. But if you have to do that, and then say it costs 15, 20 to fix the cars, you know, that's something we gotta wait, you know?
Well, and I think for all the years that I've been in it, you get too deeply involved in leasing, there's no way out. And this is just my opinion, that's what the leasing companies do. Once they get you, and I'll give an example, lost their whole fleet. Serrano Express, division of the Serrano Cheese Company. By the time they got done, they got involved in leasing, they could not afford to put their own fleet back on the road as the costs escalated. You know, and it's like I said, it's a tough one. I still remember, I'll leave the name out of it, like the one fellow at Serrano said, it's like paving a farm field, you're never gonna grow crops again. And that's what they really try and do, is get you so deeply involved in leasing. They basically got you by the short hairs, there's no way out. You know, and a lot of companies, you know, especially, you know, because I deal with some big companies, they think it's great, fixed cost, that's all they're looking at. You know, it's like I said, budget's bad enough this year, fixed costs out the window. You know, it's like I said, a lot of stuff, and I think Tom was the one that said it. We kind of kept this stuff that all we could do is auction it off for parts. You know, if we had it on a decent rotating basis on our own, where, you know, we hit the equity and everything and trading values, it'd be a lot cheaper in the long run. You know, I'm sure nobody here keeps their car for 10 or 12 years. You know, by the time you do, it's not worth that much.
I mean, just going based off the original lease, like it was mentioned earlier, I mean, we had 8 vehicles for 3 years at 74,592. Here we are gonna spend 73,600 for 4 vehicles with no warranties or very limited for 2 years. You know, we're paying out a 3-year term here with very limited warranty. I know, you know, you're against, you know, leasing right now, and I don't know all the facts behind it, the pros and the cons of it, but in reality, we could invest that 73,000 into another 3-year term of new vehicles with a warranty, you know, as an option, if we need to pull the trigger fast due to production, you know, for new vehicles taking a while, I guess. It's not, the more I sit here thinking of it and talking and going back and forth with everyone, this does not make sense to me, you know, financially. There's a whole lot of reservation there now too.
I gotta, not to interrupt you, Brian. Somebody's got to change their name. No, just out of curiosity, did they ever mention the track lease to you? You know what that is? Basically, a track lease, you pay a little bit more per month. At the end of the lease, $1 you own the vehicle. They never brought that up.
No, but, you know, the way that I view these leases are that they are, it's similar that they're having you lease these vehicles to a residual value, that the residual value is going to be lower than what the actual residual value is going to be. And that equity is going to be the town's. So what they're going to say is, okay, you have $7,000 of equity in these 5 vehicles. So now you got $35,000 that you can reinvest into a next lease, and the lease will be less costly. So, you know, I mean, you're paying it one way or another. But the reality is too, we didn't enter into these leases, you know, blindly. You know, it was like, hey, we have limited staffing in the central garage. They have only so many people that can get certain things done. So, okay, we got to start refreshing vehicles. And if we can continue to refresh vehicles and have them be at a lease value that's a lower price point, then, you know, I mean, it's benefiting us one way or another. So, I mean, I get it. People are beating up on the lease concept. I see the negative situation with the Priuses only because our guys don't have the ability to really work on them. They don't have that training. So I mean, at the enterprise leases, who knows? But I know that they're going to come with some options for us at least. And we have funding for leasing again. So I mean, we could have those types of options, but unfortunately, we don't have those answers to be had in the next 12 days or whatever. You know, I mean, as you keep saying, you know, these discussions should have been taken when we were talking about the budget, not now. You know, so you know the budget's in place, and now we were putting the cart before the horse. You know.
Yeah, I'm for not keeping them.
I agree.
Should we pull this then, or do you want to table it and leave it alive for 2 weeks?
I say we pull it right from the consent, just vote it and go for it. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Linda's idea to earmark that 73,000 towards newer vehicles, whether it's too new or it's a new lease program or whatever. But that decision's got to be, the ball's got to start rolling as soon as we make a decision on this resolution. So,
Right.
and this is no one's fault but our own. I mean, Paul's been emailing us for months, you know, and doing it, and department heads and the board. So that this decision has to be made, and the more I talk about it out loud with everybody here and hearing all sides of it all, we don't have the training in the garage, we don't have the tools for it, so we got to outsource the work anyways. We got to return them, we don't know how much that's going to cost, we don't know if they're still going to work after we buy them then. You know, what's the warranty on it all? There's a whole lot there. And by looking at the original lease agreement, I mean, even if we went to another lease, like I just said, we can get 3 years out of 8 vehicles for the cost that we're going to buy 4 that we don't know how long they're going to last for us. That's why I'll say to vote all 8 down and send them back.
Right.
I agree.
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda, go ahead.
No, I just said I agree.
So we're gonna pull this
Pull it off the consent.
off the consent?
And then
Yeah.
Take a
Vote
vote.
it down?
Yeah, and then
And
we
vote
can
it
amend it
down
to the 8th.
or, yeah.
Next, resolution 2023-648 is to authorize the supervisor to execute associated energy performance contract and project expenditure agreements with Wendell Energy Services. Resolution 2023-649, authorize supervisor to execute cable television agreement between Spectrum Northeast LLC and the town of Chickawaga. 2023-650 is to retain technical consulting services. Resolution 2023-651 is the disaster recovery offsite backup. Resolution 2023-652 is tax collection and dog license system, the annual maintenance. 2023-653 is to reduce the number of council members from 6 to 4.
Will that one just get
We
pulled
have no
because both
sponsors
sponsors,
on that.
yeah, there's no sponsors?
Sponsors are not here. Do we have anyone who wants to add their name to that resolution?
Nope.
So we are pulling that resolution. Resolution 2023-652 is the creation of a clerk typist, section 55A for job inventory. Resolution 2023-655 is the appointment of a senior microcomputer technical support specialist, permanent, in our information technology and records management department, and that is Jared Trevino. 2023-656 is the appointment of clerk typist, section permanent, that'll be Claire Morello. Resolution 2023-657 is hiring and termination of part-time seasonal employees. There's several within different departments. Resolution 2023-658 is a youth and recreation transfer. 2023-659 is a special event, slate and play event. That's going to be at Stiglmeyer Park on Saturday, December 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. Resolution 2023-660 is a travel authorization for the police department. That is the end of the resolution item for that cap.
Thank you. Anybody has anything else? Are you going into executive session?
I don't believe
I
so.
don't think so.
Do we have anything on it?
Give a motion to adjourn then?
So when we open the meeting, before we do, when we open the meeting, are we gonna go with the presentation first with the American Legion post presenting the police department and then with the promotions of the detectives? And how does that work with bringing a waiver item to the top? Do we just vote on it then? So
If you want to do that, you can make a motion to amend the agenda.
Yeah, then you can
Agenda.
bring it to the
we
front.
could do all three right there
Yeah.
up in the front, top load them with the police here and then allow them to do their thing and then go and then we move on business.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So motion to, any motion?
Motion to
Chris.
adjourn.
I'll make the motion and
Second.
Councilmember Pilarski, second by
Chris made the motion. and
Chris, I'm sorry.
Chris, yeah,